there, this is Terry with Collabo Creative, a local service design company here in Indianapolis. And guess what? It is Wednesday again. So we have our two new everyday experts that we wanted to share with all of you out there. And we're doing something a little different today, something a little special. And what we wanted to do was, we're a research company, and one of the reasons why we're doing this series on everyday experts is because we see every single person as an expert of their own experience. And so we wanted to bring that kind of research lens to look at what's going on in our own researcher lives. Like, what does it look like to be a researcher right now and doing research remotely? So I have two amazing new guests, and actually one's not new. You've seen her before. We have Gracia, or Niki Gracia, here to join us. And then our very new member of our team over at Collabo is Jessica. So I'll let them introduce themselves, and they can share who they are, where they're from, and a little bit about them and why you should listen to their lessons. All right, take it away, Jessica.
All right, my name's Jessica, and first of all, thank you for having me. I'm very excited. I have spent the last 2 years I've spent at IUPUI, but before that, I'm from Anderson. I still actually live pretty close to Anderson. So I've been, stuck in quarantine here at my house, out in the country. So I guess the people that I'm around the most are just my direct family, which is I have one daughter and she's 7. So I guess she's the one that I've really been able to have an impression on during this time. But I don't know. I feel like I am an encourager. So I always try to lead by example, and something that I do a lot is I make a lot of to-do lists, and it's fun to see that kind of rub off on my daughter. So she'll make all kinds of funny to-do lists, and hers always turn out a lot like from the movie Elf. So it'll be like bake cookies, watch a movie, and then snuggle. But I see that as a great thing because those are all attainable goals, and we're able to check them off. But yeah, I'm able to kind of impart that sense of productivity during this difficult time. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah,
that's fantastic. Well, and I would be, every mother is a person who is invested in learning and growing and helping someone else learn and grow. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that about your daughter. I hope you take photos of her list so that we could see them, because that's
okay. Fascinating. I will. I have some good ones already.
Yay. Okay, Niki.
Hi, everybody. I'm Niki Gracia, or also, Ana Gracia, known as Niki Gracia. I'm in Indianapolis, and how I am a learner every day. Yes, I think especially through this time is through kids. I don't know. I'm gonna say that it's just my influence for the kids is just like, especially during this time that they are like stuck and there were so many things taken away from them. I get to be in contact with them, either phone call, in person, just giving them this time to reflect and help my skills of reflection pass to them, in the sense of like, I know that we can do this because we are in this different times, but what can we do with what we have? Mm-hmm. So I help them to learn with what they have and think, be curious about what else can they do. So mm-hmm. I like to influence them, in the sense of curiosity, mm-hmm. to see what else is out there that they can do and explore more. So.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, Niki. And if for anyone out there who does not know Niki personally, she is the best auntie ever. So that's why she has so many kiddos around that she can influence. And she's also teaching Spanish online to these kiddos. So really amazing stuff that you're doing, especially in helping, our children learn and grow. So definitely need to be listening to both of you on your lessons. But it'll be interesting to hear, because I'm really curious to hear, what is it like to be a researcher working remotely? But before we get into that, I always like to start off with just kind of thoughts of gratitude. So what's one thing that you're grateful for today? And I'm gonna switch it up. We're gonna go to Niki first.
I'm grateful today for being here. I'm always grateful about, like, when I open my eyes, I'm gonna say it again. I say it in a different video already, but I'm always grateful about just being alive. I'm all every day I'm like, I like thank I'm gonna say like this. Thank you, God, for another day that I get to experience, and thank you for the friends and family that are around.
Mm-hmm.
So thankful for every day.
Mhm.
Yeah, just being able to wake up and open your eyes every morning.
Correct.
Nice. Okay, Jess, what are you grateful
Yeah.
for today?
Well, I would agree with that. I'm always thankful for my friends and family and just to be able to be here. But I just wanted to say I'm especially grateful for the opportunity to join you two at Collabo. I've always wanted to work in the consulting field, doing human-centered design and design research. So it's really a great opportunity. So I'm grateful for that. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. We're so grateful to have you. I'm so excited that you're on our team now. Oh, so much love in this space right now. Okay, so let's jump into the research stuff, right? So for all of our researchers out there that are watching, because I know that we have, like as an educator, we've worked with a lot of students who became researchers, so I'm sure they're really curious to know, what is it like, or I should say, what's the one thing you've learned as a researcher working remotely in 2020 that you want to share with all of the folks watching today? So let's go to Jess. What's one lesson you've learned as a researcher working remotely?
I guess the biggest thing in reflecting earlier today, reading the prompts that I've learned throughout this time is how it's important to, so, we live very busy lives. We are expected to be productive every day, check off our lists and all of our goals. But I think that in light of the current situation, a lot of those priorities are different, and it's important for us to reflect and be aware of that and not be too hard on ourselves. Just to be more graceful with ourselves and forgiving, but then also continue to reflect and just realign your goals according to what is important to you at that time.
Nice. So just being kind of flexible with your own goals and priorities.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice, thanks. And okay, so you told us the lesson. So how did you come to realize that?
So I mentioned earlier when I was talking about myself that I had spent the last 2 years in grad school. So with being in that environment, it's go, go, go all the time. So many things going on, so many projects that I was a part of, working with community partners in Indianapolis, as well as schoolwork and thesis research and all of that. So it was kind of like I was on this trajectory, but then everything just went, everything closed down because of COVID. So it was a difficult transition, I guess, for me, because I was so used to being productive and feeling like I was accomplishing tasks throughout the day to absolutely nothing and not going anywhere. So it took me a little while to transition into the new normal. But I kind of just realized that I am probably my biggest critic. And as long as I am doing what is important to me and those that I love and people around me, then that's the best I can do during this time. Mm-hmm. And that's something I should be proud of and still appreciate. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, it's hard, right? It's always hard to admit when we feel like we've got everything together and then something shifts and you're just like, oh my gosh, everything's like, I can't handle any of this. What's going on? So I appreciate your just your honesty and vulnerability in that. So thank you so much for sharing. So I'm going to throw that same question over to you, Niki. What's one thing that you've learned in 2020 as a researcher working remotely that you want to share with everyone who's listening?
Well, I mean, in the sense of research, before the pandemic, just right before the pandemic, I was working on in-person interviews, and I mean, the connection when you are in front of somebody, giving them their space, their opportunity to share their experiences, emotions, and feelings. I mean, it cannot be compared to the computer, of course. But now everybody, I mean, this pandemic or these times just like switch everybody to get to learn new things. So we, or me as a researcher also, is like, okay, now we have to continue doing engagements with participants. Now we have to learn these new technologies, but also they have to learn these technologies. So how can you as a researcher help them learn? Because they're not going to, I mean, it's not that they are not going, but they're also learning in this learning process the same as you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that as a researcher, you have to have included in the research, I can say. So it's just a learning process of new technologies, but my question was, how can you make them feel as if you were present?
Nice. That's a great question. That's like a good challenge statement to come up with ideas around.
Yes. It's like, how can you make them feel the same as one-to-one? And I think one thing that is, it's so valuable, it's the opportunity to have these on video conversations, because you just feel that you are there with the person. I mean, the technology has progressed a lot. I mean, I was just watching a cartoon with the kids the other day in which they were seeing the future with video conferences, but it was way back, and now we are there. So it's like, now we are using this technology and we are being connected through this technology. But besides that, it's like, how can you make this not participant, but anybody feel that you are there? Mm-hmm. So just engaging them, making sure that, I mean, you look eye to eye, even though it's just, there is a camera there, but eye to eye. And one example of this, which is, it was not a research, but when Jessica came into the team, mm-hmm. It was, I mean, we met through the computer, we met through video camera, and then we met in person. And it was like, I have known you for so many years already. It was like, I forgot that we have never met in person. So it was interesting to know that these connections these new connections through video conferencing is just like, makes you feel there. So mm-hmm. As a researcher, now we have to adapt, but it's, it's helping to connect others. Yes, I'm just saying, I'm just so passionate about like the idea of mm-hmm. making these human connections with others, right. And the technology to adapt to the technology that is being provided to us.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you brought that up, because that was one thing that, especially I think right now when we think about companies that are onboarding new team members, right? How are they helping those team members feel included and feel valued, and building those, relationships and connections, even though we're entirely remote and we're all digital. But it was so great to see the two of you like have this relationship and like feel connected, just because you've been working through Zoom in the past, couple of days. And it was kind of amazing to see how powerful that can actually be when we think, I guess, because a lot of times we think there's a disconnect because we're digital, right? Mm-hmm. But it's almost the opposite in how you both have been leveraging our digital technologies and what we need to work with through this time. That's awesome.
And I would like to add one more thing, that before this the pandemic, I can say I had video interviews, but it feels that the connection was not completely 100%, like real people were not 100% invested. But now it's different, because this is how we get connected now. I mean, is now I have seen people through video conferencing, and they are there, they are present, they are willing to listen, to share, to engage. Before it was, okay, I'm in a video conference, but can we hurry up because I have to go somewhere else? Because you have the world out there. Now we are more focused, and this is our new reality.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for adding that. And so that kind of takes us to our next question is, now that we, talking about our new reality, our next reality, and thinking in terms of us as researchers working remotely, how do you see yourself applying this lesson, or the lesson that you talked about, to our new engagements as we move forward? Like, we're, continuing to do work, we're continuing to do research. How do you see yourself applying your lesson learned to this new space. So we'll go back over to Jessica.
Okay. I just wanted to kind of re-emphasize what Niki was saying about how we did meet via Zoom, and then we met several more times, just Niki and I doing work together through collaborative software. And I mean, we would have the video off, but just our voice going for hours and hours. And it's true. I mean, we really, when we met each other, it was kind of just like, oh, hey, friend. So it's just really encouraging to know that despite having to do everything remotely, most things remotely, there was that connection that we were able to make, in a more human way than we thought was possible. And I think that that's something that we can use moving forward with our participants, knowing that it is possible because we have actually experienced it ourselves. But also, I think it's very important to be intentional with the method. I mean, always being intentional with the methods you're using for research, but especially now that these methods are more limited, the more intentional we can be in not forcing, but making those connections happen easier is really going to help with our research. So I'm excited moving forward, knowing, there are so many possibilities, and a lot of these digital platforms have been around for a long time, but there's always kind of a gap within technology, especially when you're working collaboratively. So under these circumstances, it's really forced researchers like us to, take that extra step, spend time learning a new software, spend time learning it with people who may not understand it in the same way that you don't understand it. So it kind of just helps you, gives you that safety cushion to be able to be vulnerable and ask questions like, hey, I really don't know how to use this software. Chances are the other person's like, well, I kind of don't either, but I was afraid to speak up. But now on a team, I mean, there's so much uncertainty. It kind of just is bringing us more so together and forcing us in a good way to use these digital platforms that we may have been skeptical to use in the past.
Nice. I love that. I love the way you kind of frame that as it's like the adversity, meeting this adversity is actually pushing us together rather than pulling us apart. Oh, that's so kind of sweet. Awesome. Okay, Niki, so what do you have to add on to that?
So just like Jen just says, like being intentional, knowing that you are that we all are learning new ways to communicate, I can say, and being understand that others are going through the same thing. So being patient with others is not thinking that everybody knows every single platform, that everybody knows how to navigate. So just be patient with yourself and with others, that we are learning. So that's my main point right now.
That's really nice, because it actually goes kind of back to what Jess had said earlier in the, like being okay with ourselves in transition, right? Like resetting our priorities. And I think it's in that being patient with ourselves and being patient with others. So, oh, love it. We always come full circle somehow. I don't know how this always happens, but I think you two all are like, I think the guests are always trying to like, how do we make this work together? Because we just all love to work together. So it's just a testament to how we have such great guest experts on here all the time. So thank you again for being on, because I love being able to hear. I get the opportunity and honor to work alongside with you guys every week, and it's just great to be able to have a platform for you all to elevate your voices so that I can hear what you have to say and hear your lessons as well, because I learn more from interacting with you all than I do from anything else. So thank you so much. So to wrap up, because that was mainly the last main question that we have, but I always like to wrap up with what are words of wisdom, or the quotes that you kind of live by that help you move forward through adversity or tumultuous times like now. So let's start with Niki.
Well, I would like to share a quote that first, two things. So as a researcher, I've been hearing books from Brené Brown. So I got two different thoughts that as I was listening to the audiobooks. So one thing, as a researcher, I like the way she described that she's a researcher. She considers herself as a story catcher. So I like that, which means collect the stories, and because collect the stories that are data with a soul. So that's one thing that I just love. And it's like, yeah, that's what we do as a design, as a researchers, as a design researcher. We look into what are the emotions, feelings, everything within. I'm so sorry. I got just so excited. So anyways, so the other one is the way she describes connection. Create this connection. So I'm just going to read it. Connection, the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from their relationship. So as a researcher, we always want to create connections with the participants. So they can be, we both, I mean, you as a researcher, you empathize with them and they empathize with you, and we create that connection. So
oh, that was so, I love Brene Brown. That was so nice. Thank you for sharing that pull from her book. Do you know which book it was from?
One is not, well, it's a book, it's an audiobook, but I think it was more like a conference. The Power of Vulnerability. That's what I found it.
Nice. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Okay, Jess, what do you have?
Okay, well, first of all, I want to say, I don't know if you can hear it, but it's thundering and storming very loudly here. So just to be aware, you may hear thunder. But a quote that I have that has made an impact on me recently is, I'll read it first and then talk about it. It's, if you want something you've never had, you have to do something you've never done. So this comes from actually a physical trainer in response to working out, you know, reaching those kind of goals. But actually, that's where I heard it first. With being home and, you know, having a lot more time on my hands, I've been able to do online workout programs and stuff. But the first time I heard the trainer say that, it kind of, I was like, okay, that speaks to me. I get that. If you want something you've never had, you have to do something you've never done. So I first heard it, you know, while I was working out, thinking about it in terms of those kind of goals. But then I was able to kind of sit back and reflect on how that is so true in every other aspect of life. Whenever things get hard and we want to quit, we have to just remind ourselves that difficulty is just part of the human condition. But if we want to move forward, then we might have to push a little harder and try something we've never done before and kind of step out of our comfort zone. So, and that's definitely relevant in research. Sometimes we think, well, we should try a new method, but it makes me feel a little uncomfortable. I don't know, like, I don't want to do it, but you can do it. But having the mindset where even though something might be pushing us out of our comfort zone, it's probably for a good reason, and it's probably going to get us further ahead than we may have gotten without pushing ourselves.
That's awesome. I love that. Do you know who the personal trainer was?
Yes, her name's Autumn Calabrese.
Oh, from Beachbody.
Yes.
I love Beachbody.
Yeah, I actually love it too. Just because there's so many different things you can choose from.
It's been a lifesaver since quarantine.
Yeah, it has.
But that's a fantastic quote, right? Because it is, you know, if we want to grow, we have to push ourselves beyond what we've done before. And as researchers in this time, you know, when was the last time we had a global pandemic and had to quarantine and could not be in person with our research participants, right? This is a whole brand new world of research. And so what are we going to do differently? Because we can't do the same thing. So I love it. I love both of what you have, but both of what you have had to share. It's been really insightful for me in thinking about like, how do we move forward as researchers, and what are the lessons that we're going to take into our new projects and practices, and how do we turn these into new best practices for remote researching, right? Or remote research. I think, yeah, that's probably more correct. But I wanted to thank you so much, both of you, for your time and your reflection in this, in this experience that we're having, and experiences you both are having as researchers having to work remotely. Because I know that being a researcher as well, like I know how challenging it can be, and I know how difficult it is to feel like we're able to connect with folks on that level that we used to in person, so that we can gather the quality of data that we used to. But I think you both are doing fantastic jobs in doing that, and it was so great to hear your perspective on that and how you're doing it. So thank you again for taking the time to share your expertise, your lessons learned with me, because I'm, like I said, I learn more from everyone that comes on here than anything that I could come up with myself. So I appreciate your time and value your perspective. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so excited to take some of these things that you both talked about and incorporate this into, like, yeah, how do we practice this, right? How do we move this forward? So hopefully everyone out there, if you are a researcher or not, hopefully you were able to take some value from what both Jessica and Niki had shared today, and how, one, we can absolutely use our digital technologies to build more connections. It's not something that has to divide us or bring us apart or make us feel less connection, but we can actually leverage them to build those deep relationships because we've experienced it already. And so the question is, and I loved what Niki you had to say, the question is how, right? How do we use these platforms in order to build these connections? And then in the same way, right, being patient and being like really thinking about what our priorities are in moving forward, because things are going to be different. And if you are a researcher or not, things are going to be different. And so be patient with yourself and be okay with not doing things exactly like you have been prior to March, right?
Yeah.
So if you are out there and you're listening, thank you so much. Hopefully these words have spoken to you, and you'll be able to take Niki and Jessica's lessons out as you move into your next reality or your next normal. And we will see you next week. Thanks. Bye.